"Ma'am, the girl lived with me in the orphanage," the janitor whispered when he saw the portrait. When the new art exhibition opened at the city museum, everyone gathered to admire the mysterious painting, a young girl with eyes so real. It felt like she was watching you. But no one expected the quiet janitor, Mr. Harris, to suddenly freeze mid-step. His mop slipped from his hands, his face turned pale, and his voice trembled as he whispered, "Ma'am, the girl in that portrait. She lived with me in the orphanage." The crowd turned silent. The museum curator, Mrs. Langford, blinked in disbelief. How could a simple janitor recognize the girl painted by a world-famous artist, who had claimed she was a vision from his dreams? Within minutes, secrets buried for 2 decades began to unravel: of a lost child, a forbidden adoption, and a promise made in the shadows of an old orphanage. The day began like any other. Mr. Harris, the museum janitor, moved through the marble halls with his cleaning cart, humming softly. He'd worked there for nearly 15 years, always quiet, always polite, always invisible. But today, something felt different. A new exhibition had just arrived, Faces of Forgotten Souls by the renowned painter Victor Langford. As visitors streamed in, whispers filled the air about the artist's dream muse, a girl he claimed came to him in visions. Harris listened absently until his eyes caught the largest canvas in the room. A young girl, brown hair tied with a blue ribbon, a small birthmark under her right eye. He froze. His breath caught. His mind raced back 20 years to St. Mary's Orphanage. He remembered her name, Lily. She was 6 when she vanished. He had searched everywhere, even after the police closed the case. Now she was here, immortalized in paint. He approached the curator, Mrs. Langford, his voice shaking. "Ma'am, that girl, she lived with me in the orphanage." Mrs. Langford frowned, confused. "You must be mistaken. Victor said he never met her. She came to him in dreams." But Harris's eyes filled with tears. "No, ma'am. I remember her. The same face, the same scar, the same sadness." The room fell into a hush. A reporter nearby caught the exchange. Cameras turned toward them. The news spread like wildfire. The janitor who recognized the painter's muse that night. Mrs. Langford couldn't sleep. Neither could Harris. Because deep down, both knew this was no coincidence. The next day, Mrs. Langford invited Harris to her office. "Tell me everything," she said softly. Harris told her about St. Mary's, a crumbling old orphanage outside the city. He had been a caretaker there in his youth. Lily had been one of the brightest children, always drawing, always curious. Then one night, during a thunderstorm, she disappeared. The police suspected an abduction, but no leads ever surfaced. Mrs. Langford listened, her hands trembling. "Victor painted that portrait 15 years ago," she whispered. "He claimed he saw her in his dreams, but he could describe her in perfect detail." Harris leaned forward. Because he had seen her. Maybe he was connected somehow. They began to dig. Old records, police files, adoption papers, and then something shocking, a forged adoption certificate under the name Lillian Grace. The signature was Victor Langford's. Mrs. Langford's world shattered. "Victor, my husband, adopted her?" she gasped. It all made sense now. The secrecy, his nightmares, the paintings of that same little girl. Meanwhile, Harris's heart broke all over again. He had promised Lily he'd protect her, and now he feared she hadn't just been taken, she had been hidden. That evening, Harris and Mrs. Langford confronted Victor in his studio. He stood by the window, brush in hand, startled to see them. "Harris says he knew the girl," Mrs. Langford said firmly. "He says her name was Lily." Victor's face drained of color. He sat down heavily, his voice cracking. "You don't understand. I found her," he explained, "years ago, after leaving a gallery late one night. He saw a frightened girl wandering near the old orphanage. She wouldn't tell him her name. She only said she had no one. He took her in, called her Lillian, and raised her as his daughter until she fell gravely ill. She died at 12. Heartbroken, he painted her face over and over, calling her his dream muse." Tears streamed down Harris's face. "She wasn't a dream," he whispered. "She was family." Victor nodded slowly. "I know, I kept her safe. But I never knew she had someone looking for her." The three stood in silence before the portrait, 2 men bound by guilt. One woman realizing the art that made her husband famous was born from tragedy. As the museum lights dimmed, Harris gently whispered, "Thank you for keeping her memory alive." The painting now bore a new nameplate, Lily, the girl who was never forgotten. If this story touched your heart, share it. Because sometimes even the quietest souls carry the loudest memories. Subscribe for more emotional, real feel stories that remind us kindness and truth always find their way home.